festival that held in Nigeria. Well, this building was put up, this monument, this structure was put up just for that. And it has become the mecca of arts and culture in Nigeria. Quite a number of halls inside, and over the past few years, a number of conversations that held between federal government, the state government, Lagos state government, and some other private sector operators, including the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time, working to revamp it. Interestingly, some people anyone who has performed at this monument will tell you this is the place to be, and it always draws attention. Now, what's interesting again, Chamberlain, is that this monument was put up during the military era, and that design is a kind of military cap at the time. Does it defeat the purpose? I don't think so. But that is it right there. And another thing that reminds us of what happened in 1977 with the second Black Arts and Culture Festival that held in Lagos, Nigeria, is the town called Festac Town today. Even though there are those who will remember the glory days and say it's really gone down, it's not the way it used to be. But hey, that is what it is right now, and that is where everyone is. As you can see, that's our skyline in Lagos. Temperature is at 31 degrees. Can you believe that? And it feels like 39 degrees. Humidity is 80%. And this is Lagos.
All right, so what I can tell, I mean, you still need to brace up if you have to get to that area in Lagos. It's always a challenge. It's always a challenge getting from one spot to the other. But all the same, I mean, when that center kicks off, I think UNESCO will be having something there much later today. So all the same, it's a Friday. Let your head down as much as you can. You do need it.
Indeed. Well, I wonder if we can ever organize something as grand as that again, because part of what they said at the time was that we had too much money, we didn't know what to do with it. Now I'm sure we more than know what we need to do with money, but at the same time, we mustn't forget to celebrate our culture and our heritage.
Okay, so today, quite a number of scenarios will play out. The Okoma incident, many have not forgotten that one. So the army will be talking to some journalists today. I do know, of course, there will always be controversy about this. I know that I think about 4 or 5 days ago when Air Vice Marshal Ajayi had visited the place, reports of him not allowing the governor, who happens to be the chief security officer, to access the venue, the commissioner of police not being able to access the venue. But he said they were there on a fact-finding mission and not to apportion blame. They're there to gather facts from security agencies, community leaders, and community dwellers. So questions as to, so what is the role of police in all of this? Investigations, they're going to face a court measure, so many things. So we'll wait and see what happens, because look, we know that yes, those unfortunate incidents occurred, but many also think we shouldn't be one-dimensional in investigating what went on, so that at the end of the day we address the main issue and not where some persons may be teleguiding or trying to have this predetermined outcome. So we need to see how we can, as much as possible, avoid any of those, because there'll be several theories out there. So we'll be looking to see what the army will say today.
Certainly, and we also know that the trial of the Binance executives will also continue. We understand that the FIRS is arraigning them. They've continued the trial in spite of the fact that one of the executives, has been missing. He fled the country, but the other is still here. And in any case, the FIRS maintains that it is not the individuals that they are really prosecuting, it's the company which did not remit any taxes to Nigeria. So that will also be up for discussion today. Ayo.
Well, we talked about arts the other time, the arts and culture issue. UNESCO is unveiling its Art and Culture Festival today. What all of that is about, stick with us here at Channels Television. We'll give you more details. And also happening on this program at 10 o'clock is Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I will be talking about expectations, especially of everyone who uses the supply. And Dangote petrol supply, which we are told is set to begin. Meantime, let's take you through some of the papers this morning.
Well, here are the papers for this morning. Vanguard Newspapers is leading with a story on the economy for those wondering about the current situation with borrowing locally and whether or not the federal government has started taking some money through ways and means. There is this clarification. Tinubu's government hasn't borrowed from CBN, says Edun. Ways and means to be pinned down to deal with liquidity. That's one of the writers to that story. Adds fiscal monetary authorities complementing each other to bring inflation down. Discloses government will borrow less and focus more on domestic resource mobilization. Those are the writers to that particular story. And you also see here, federal government places ex-Kogi governor Yaya Bello on watch list. That story is also there for you. A Daily Independent has this one focusing on politics. PDP neck meeting. Relief for embattled Damagum as Wike's camp trounces Atikus. Party to resolve leadership tussle in August, September. Damagum explains why he survived coup d'etat. BOT says litigations impeding solutions to leadership crisis. PDP asks Tinubu to rejig economic team to reposition economy. Those stories are on pages 29 for you. Page 29 for you. Daily Trust has this one focusing on food. Who doesn't want to hear about food and the price of food? Prices of paddy drop in states. Foreign rise too in Kano. Local product still costly. That's the lead story on the front page of Daily Trust. And they also focus on the trial of the former governor of Kogi State. Bello's absence stalls trial as EFCC declares ex-governor wanted. The Daily Times has this focus on politics. PDP neck. Intrigues as Damagum survives. Hangs on till August. NEC approves timetable for state congresses. And look at this. It's a little rider here, but is there nonetheless. Tinubu approves system-wide policies to overhaul education sector. Those stories are on the front page of the Daily Times this morning. The Nigerian Tribune is also focusing on the story from yesterday, the PDP NEC meeting. PDP NEC, Damagum survives push to oust him. Those expecting party implosion disappointed. That's attributed to the governors. And any other story you see on the front page there? Yes, Ondo 2024, as APC gets set to pick candidate, Tinubu keeps contenders guessing. That story is also right there on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. The Nigerian Observer is looking at international tourism. $43 billion tourism business faces disruption as floods sweep Dubai, Gulf states. 290 flights cancelled, 440 delayed at Dubai airport. And what does New Telegraph have on the front page? Look at it. PDP Damagum survives sack as NEC extends acting tenure. The story is on pages 2 and 26 for you. Fixes August, September for leadership change. Damagum has overstayed as acting national chair. That is attributed to the BOT. And the military has a warning also on the front page of New Telegraph. Those taking up arms against the state will incur our wrath. That's according to the military. The Nigerian News Direct is also looking at the economy this morning. Nigeria's sovereign wealth fund hits $2.5 billion as NSIA grows income by 1,122% to 1.18 trillion naira in 2023. Is that something to cheer or not? Well, you can tell us what you think using our Sunrise Daily candles. This Nigeria has this for you. Surrender to EFCC. AG Apagbemi advises Bello, ex-Kogi governor declared wanted by anti-graft agency. That story is also there. Bombardments, DHQ alleges plot by terrorists to blackmail military. That story is there. And Blueprint has this. 98th neck fallout. Damagum remains PDP chair as Atiku Wike shift battle to August. BOT queries acting chair Ayan will stay in office. No implosion, dissenting voices, Bala assures. And look at this, DHQ warns Yoruba nation agitators of dire consequences. That story is also right there on the front page of Blueprint. Leadership Friday is focusing on this one, party crisis. For now, Damagum remains our chairman. That's attributed to PDP NEC. Leadership tussle shifts to August. Governors pass vote of confidence on NWC. Court rescues APC chairman Ganduje in Kano. So that's the lead story on the front page of Leadership Friday. And The Guardian, their big story is focusing on the aftermath of conflict, especially violent conflict in a place like the Northeast. Living on the war front, it's tagged. Borno resident on the edge, tiptoeing on active landmines, IEDs. That's a big story. They have the story for you on pages 4 and 5 of the Guardian newspapers. And that's a review of your front pages this morning.
All right, so some of the issues that, of course, does concern everyone this morning. The front page of New Telegraph. Yes, it's tucked in beneath that lead story. Reps reject electricity tariff increase. And then, underneath that one, Eco Electric plans to migrate all customers to, guess?
Band A.
Bands A and B. But
Fraud, part 1, 2, and 3.
Well, it's conditional, though. When they do provide 20 hours of electricity. Yeah, so...
I don't understand.
Well, if several people, too, may not understand. Even when the power supply, the way it currently exists right now, many still don't understand. Even people who are said to be in Band A still don't understand why they vended. They are supposed to get 20 hours. They don't get it. They're still in Band A. They're still charged all of that. And then what some of the people still don't understand, too, is the part where the House says they are rejecting this. That's the members of the House of Representatives Committee on Power say they are rejecting this one. So what? What
are they rejecting?
What does he mean?
Precisely.
Saying we rejected? Because, I mean, the chairman of that committee, Nendoko, saying, well, customers say they get estimated billing even when the electricity tariff, even when the service is not supplied. Hello? This has been on for ages. They considered MITO. They made the law. They are the lawmakers. They almost hold a knife on the yam in some of these things. They were there when all these conversations were going on. They were expected to speak when several people thought they had it up to here. They were also there when the discos had that briefing. So what did they do at the time? So if they rejected now, what is the implication of you rejecting? Or is it just to give us some sound bites? I guess we'll see.
We'll see. It's the big term there. But in the meantime, unless there is something that is shifting, well, EcoDisco is not so far away. I'm sure we can certainly get people who will write us in, but I can tell you.
Even the AEDC too themselves, sometimes they say there are people who are supposed to be on Band A, but when the complaints get to the management, they thought, look, some things are not just right, that they don't understand. They think it appears to be some sort of sabotage on the members of the staffers, members of staff who are asking customers to pay certain monies to buy other transformers or electricity or poles. So they say, look, if anybody comes to you with any such demand, report them. And so if that happens, they should be able to investigate and act on it. Don't just go giving anybody any money whatsoever to buy anything, because they say, we are the ones to take care of all of these things. So whether or not they respond in good time, I can't answer that.
I think that's why people buy these things, because they don't get a good response in good time. it takes forever for their procurement processes to kick in, and people are waiting and spending money while all of that is happening. So people just, resort to self-help and purchase those things. It's nothing new, Chamberlain. But look at what the front page of The Guardian has for you. And I think it's important to pay a little more focus to what the aftermath of conflict is doing in places like Borno State. I mean, we know that the conflict has tapered down a bit, but the aftermath is still very much there. People losing their lives and limbs to mines that have been placed there. Well, it was, the kind of fight that they had there was not the conventional warfare, and the terrorists resorted to all manner of things to decimate the Nigerian army, but that didn't happen. So right now, it is the people who are now returning back to the settlement who are facing this aftermath. So the question is, what are we doing about it? Because it's not the first time that this matter is coming to the fore. It might be way, beyond the purview of the military. And from what we know about deactivating mines, it goes on for years and usually needs the active support of not just the community, but also of well-meaning people to be able to deactivate these mines and save lives. It's currently happening in Ukraine, the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It's happened in a number of places where conflicts have happened. Maybe mines should be banned, really, because at the end of the day, the use of mines in conflict and warfare really needs to be banned. And maybe anyone found using it, I don't know. When you're also dealing with non-conventional actors, what effect will it have? It's a really big question. But this is the situation in Borno State. The question is, now that we know, what are we as a country going to do about it? Ayo.
Well, Malkwe, you'd be amazed to find out that that's exactly what I have picked out to really look at this morning. And you may also, of course, everyone pick up a copy of the paper. But in over 13 years, that paper underscores the fact that numerous deaths and severe injuries have been inflicted on civilians, hindered access to basic social services, and it has hampered the movement of people from their IDPs into their various homes. And between 2016 and 2023, 2,468 people were injured, 1,490 were killed as a result of explosive ordnance. And guess where the data is coming from? The United Nations Mine Action Service. Marco, one of the things that came to my mind is these people have local government chairmen, they have local government executives. They have members of the House of Assembly representing that particular area, all those areas where these things are taking place as we speak. They have members of the House of Representatives who go there to campaign. And Chamberlain always raises this issue. How come we're able to raise issue, to campaign in these conflict areas? We have election results from these conflict areas, but when it comes to getting the real job done, the people are at the mercy of whoever or whatever and however. I really don't know who should do something about it, but if we say that the governor of a state is the chief security officer of the state, and all these things are happening, hampering or hindering access to basic social services and socio-economic activities, we indeed need to ask several questions. I've asked this question before. Who in the universe is auditing the activities of any state governor? That's my take this morning, Chamberlain.
Then so we will be back in just a moment and highlight some of the issues playing out in the polity, so do stay on with us.
Global, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Global deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Global, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
The Duchess International Hospital caters to every aspect of the family's health needs. a one-stop shop for maternity and child health services, emergency medicine and critical care, medical and surgical subspecialties, dental and eye care, and a range of other subspecialties and services, all available at a single location right here in the heart of Ikeja. And it really doesn't matter if you're paying out of pocket using your HMO or private insurance. We focus completely on providing that world-class affordable healthcare for all the family at all times.
Executives face local macroeconomic turbulence and global geopolitical upheavals. Don't worry, Texam UK got your back. A transformative journey with Texam Strategies for Sustainable Organizational Success Program, April 24 to 25, 2024, in Lagos will position you and your organization for these challenges. Our interactive sessions, games, assessments, and peer-to-peer learning are unique with a great faculty led by John Peters, former chair, Association of MBAs and ex-prisoner of war, delivering actionable insights for you to navigate uncertainties and thrive. Pay 3,155,250 Naira by March 15th for your spot and enrich your leadership skills in resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth. Apply now via +44 7425 883 791 or exec@texam.co.uk. It's a strategic opportunity to win. Texam, insights that inspire, actions that change the world.
With Glovo, you order anything you want, and when you receive it, you celebrate it with your whole body. Because when that tasty grilled chicken is here, the weekend starts. The ingredients for your favorite recipe, just in time. And when the cake arrives, the party is on. Because receiving anything on Glovo deserves a dance. Download the app, order anything you want, and track it minute by minute until it arrives. Glovo, order anything, we deliver in minutes.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Nyesom Wike, and other prominent members of the PDP arrived at the venue of the 98th National Executive Council meeting of the party in Abuja. Prior to this meeting, the PDP Board of Trustees met and urged the party to do the needful regarding the tenure of the acting national chairman, Mr. Umar Damagum.
The current acting chairman has spent over a year in office, whereas as the usual practice of the party, the region from whence the national officer hails from should have produced a viable candidate to complete the tenure of the former national leader. It is incumbent upon us to resolve this matter with utmost urgency, guided by transparency, fairness, and the best interests of our party and its members.
The NEC is the party's highest decision-making body, and part of its duties is the ratification of decisions reached at the meetings of the various organs of the PDP prior to the NEC meeting. The acting national chairman sets the tone for the day's deliberations.
It is expected that the decision and outcome of today's NEC meeting will strengthen our party, bring answers to the many questions in the heart of our members.
When it was a turn of the PDP governors, they submitted a pledge of support for the Damagum executive.
We have been working assiduously to make sure that all the all-season elections have been well-funded, and of course the working committee is working. And we are solely behind the current leadership of the PDP at the National Working Committee level and the BOT.
The NEC meeting later went into a closed-door session. When the doors opened, the National Policy Secretary briefed journalists on the key decisions taken by the Council.
NEC charges all others, leaders, critical stakeholders, and indeed all members of the PDP to close ranks, jettison every personal or group interest, and work together in the effort to reposition and return the PDP to power. NEC also approved the reconstruction of the party, the reconstitution of the party disciplinary and reconciliation committees of the party to further ensure the stability of the party.
The PDP National Working Committee recently came under severe pressure from some members who want the Damagun executive to resign. As it stands, however, these people will have to wait for the time when the party may take a decision on this matter.
All right, yes, indeed, that is what we'll be talking about today. We've got two gentlemen here with us in the studios, Adakole Ijogi and Silas Onu, both of them members of the People's Democratic Party. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Good morning, Margaret.
Thank you for having us.
So, just as some may have expected, there was not going to be chairs flying in some of those meetings, as the build-up might have suggested. But nonetheless, looking at those images in that report, some of them worthy of note, I might add. But let's start off with the comments that the BOT chairman was making there. It appeared as though it was some sort of, shall we say, complaint that, look, some things need to be corrected. We have our laws that is there stipulating how we should address some of these things. In other words, suggesting the PDP leadership needs to address the chairmanship position. He mentioned the secretary as well, which has caused division within the party. But alas, the decision was not to have them go, but till August. Was this something that he himself would be surprised with by the BOT chairman?
Thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you for having me. I don't think so, because the night before there was caucus. There was a caucus meeting of the NEC caucus that happened in the Bauchi State Governor's Lodge. So the BOT chairman is aware of that decision. But I would like to draw your attention to the fact that within the PDP, there's an internal mechanism of conflict resolution. That yes, it might look as if things are going gaga, but the PDP has been, I think it's the only political party that has been around for the past 25 years, 26 years, since 1998. All those ones are new parties. So there have been some level of growth and development. Yes, we have some stumbling blocks. Yes, ambitions and desires have been clashing. Yes, bringing some level of, not confusion, but maybe, I would like to put it, maybe political brickmanship. But I tell you this, with the position of chairmanship, especially as someone from North Central Nigeria, I think that we are very patient people. Because if you know, the people, when we lost the woman leader in the South, that position was replaced by somebody from the zone. The same thing with zonal vice chairman Southwest. Now, the reason we took this time is to appeal to the Eastwell chairman, Senator Yochi Ayu, to withdraw his case in court. Okay. And then we fix the in-house, because the North Central is the heart of the People's Democratic Party. So what was the point of the BOT chairman raising those issues if he already knew that they were going to go probably till August and allow that to be sorted? So when he was raising that, it gave the impression that they needed to address that there and then. No, I think he was raising the issue to bring it to the front burner, because he was part of the caucus meeting the night before. And even besides, if the North Central were to produce a chairman, the North Central caucus meeting, which I attended a couple of days before, actually a day before, would have nominated a consensus candidate. But up till now, the North Central is yet to agree on a consensus candidate, which is the practices that we have in the People's Democratic Party. So, Salas, what about the impact of those feuding groups who had wanted the decisions to go their way, which is one way or the other, but at the end of the day,
Is it victory for any one of them, or the party has fully taken charge of all of this now?
Well, if you recall, last week I was here, we spoke about this issue, and I said that the people shouting on the media, especially those from the House of Reps, are just seeking attention because there is no vacancy for the office of chairman yet. The chairman, embattled chairman Yochiayu, is still in court. Even though a day...
At the time, huh?
Yeah, even though a day to the neck we kept hearing he has withdrawn his case, we've not seen any process to that effect, right? So he's still in court. The deputy national chairman, is acting on his behalf in accordance with the PDP constitution. So to address the BOT chairman's concern, it doesn't matter if he acts for 1 year or 2 years, as long as the man is in court. If they don't want him to continue acting, they should ensure that there is vacancy.
But now, what about now? Ever since he withdrew the case?
I've not seen evidence of that withdrawal. You don't withdraw cases on pages of newspapers.
So wait, is it that the party doesn't believe the case is withdrawn?
I don't know. That issue was not discussed in NEC at all. Oh. These issues were not discussed.
What about the caucus meeting? Was it raised?
These issues were not discussed.
And I've seen it, and I've seen the copy of the withdrawal list. He has withdrawn it.
Now, if he has withdrawn it,
yes,
and it's been brought to the attention of the party, and the legal advisor receives it and tenders before the NWC, the office will be made vacant or declared vacant, right? And then the need to now get a substantive national chairman will be placed on the table. The politics for national chairman is different from the politics for national women leader or zonal vice chairman. These ones are zoned to a particular sub-region, right? National chairman is zoned in blocks, and there are just 2 blocks in the party, north and south. So that's why you have 2 deputy national chairmen, one representing the northern block, the other one representing the southern block. So when they want to now discuss the issue of replacing IU, the northern block will have to meet, comprising North Central, North East, and Northwest. They'll have to meet and agree that it should go back to Benue, if that is what they want.
Is it back to... Wait.
I mean, it should go back to North Central, if that is what they want, right? If they agree that it should go back to North Central, in the North Central, they also have to sit and agree that it should go back to a particular state. As you know, we're hearing that even the PDP candidate in the last election, Nasarawa State, is also interested. That is Ombugadu. Yes, is also interested. Meaning that the North Central will have to now agree on which states. So the whole game is now going to be put on the table, and whichever block in the North plays their game very well will take it. So nobody has an entitlement. Let me finish.
Just to correct you, point of order. Just to correct you.
As soon as it finishes, you respond to it.
Nobody has an entitlement to an office in a political party. Nobody has an entitlement. The North Central had it. They bungled it. It wasn't anybody that removed IU. It is his ward.
Okay.
Right? So it can go anywhere.
Let him respond to that.
As someone who, as an individual who attended the North Central caucus meeting a day before the NEC meeting, we had only one resolution, which is to obey, I think, Section 41 of the PDP Constitution, which is what the BOT chairman was making reference to, which is that when an officer resigns or is removed from office, the zone where he comes from should produce his replacement. So the North Central made that resolution, took it to the caucus and also to NWC and also to NEC. If you read the NEC, the resolution from the NEC meeting, you find it there that North Central should produce the replacement for the national chairman after the Congress.
We're not saying different things.
No, you're saying that it's open to the North. I'm saying
the zone he comes from.
It is zoned to North Central.
If you listen,
it's not zoned to when you say it's
not
the whole North.
If you listen to my analysis, the national chairman position is zoned in blocks. not to a sub-region.
Do you disagree with that?
I disagree with him. He's a lawyer. He's not a politician.
Just a moment. Yes. I'm just trying to see now. There are two different situations here. Yes, there's a general situation that normally this is what happens. Yeah. But in this instance, I believe that's what you're referring to, that in this instance, it has been micro-zoned to the North Central.
Yes.
But generally, I mean, assuming you were to go to a convention, for instance, where a fresh chairman were to be elected, is it correct when he says that it's usually zoned either north or south?
Well, he's half correct. Because if you remember the pronouncement of the chairman, listen to me, I'm not a politician. If you remember the pronouncement of the chairman, I think the former governor of Abia State, who was the chairman of the zoning committee, you remember they said what? Swap. All positions that were in the south should be moved to the north. All positions in the north to move to the south. So it's a general blanket thing. Then the regions will now decide the small micro-zoning. So it's not only for the position of national chairman, it's for all. So this position of publicity secretary was held by Kola. Kola is from Kogi State, not central. When they say to switch to the south, it now moved to, I think, Oyo. I think Debo is from, I think, Oyo State. So you see, it's not only position of national chairman, no. And the North met, the Northern Caucus met. I was part of that meeting before IU's emergence, even the one in Benue House when IU emerged. And we know who all the contestants were before it was zoned. In fact, if you know the intrigues in those meetings, you won't sound like
okay.
This.
So why are you very particular about this particular? Why are you very insistent that that's how it is usually micro-zoned?
Because
zoned to geopolitical
because
zones.
it is zoned to the North Central, and in the PDP constitution, go and read the constitution. In the PDP constitution, it says when an officer resigns or is removed, he should be replaced with another officer from the same zone.
Okay, that's peculiar to when an officer resigns or is removed, but not conventions.
No, not conventions. Not conventions.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Well, for purposes of just allaying his mind and his fears about whether I'm a politician or not, Mr. Ajogi, I was a state chairman of PDP, and I contested for Senate. I'm not sure you have contested for any of such position or held any party office like me.
No, this is
listen, so just to take you there before you misunderstand the issue now. National chairmanship is not publicity secretary. There are two deputies for national chairman. And these two deputies is to ensure that the national chairman, his zone or his block, is protected. In the event of a vacancy, right, of the national chairman, like this case now that IU is not around, the Constitution says his deputy north shall act, meaning the interest that he's representing is the north. If that is not the case, there is a national vice chairman, not central. They should have brought him to act on behalf of IU and not the deputy national chairman. That is to tell you that it wasn't micro-zoned to northwest. It was zoned to the north. The north decides what part of north produces chairman. It's not the business of the south. Now, where you will have an issue in this circumstance now, where the constitution of the party will be breached, is if the party is trying to bring a new chairman from the south. Then you have left the zone. The north will have to complete the tenure of IU, not the south. So the issue of saying it must be not central.
It does appear that there certainly is an agenda now. I think I have a number of people.
I don't know what agenda is, but go and read the Constitution, my brother.
There certainly is an agenda. But let's take a look at Daily Independent, because I know that the papers are awash, capturing the stories in many different ways. And what I see right here on the front page of Daily Independent is quite intriguing. Relief for embattled Damagum as Wike's camp trounces articles. Would you say that captures what happened yesterday?
Well, as an insider, there are certain things that we can say in the media, and certain things we cannot say. But I'll tell you this, though.
The media is saying it anyway.
No, that's not what it is. That's not what it is.
Okay, so tell us what it is.
No, let me put it to you. Let me say the palatable one. The intrigues that you have in the People's Democratic Party at the moment is a fallout of the PDP primaries of last year and the presidential election. Some of us who were for power shift to the south I mean, it's no gainsaying it. I mean, it's out there. I mean, 3 days to the election, I was on the same studio. That whole process has not completely healed itself. And for me, I call myself a replacement generation leader within the party. You cannot have reconciliation without truth. It's truth and reconciliation. At that time, the political process, was bridged because power was supposed to shift to the south. But unfortunately, the ticket was picked by another candidate, which is the first time in our history. Go and look at the PDP. Any party, any national chairman, you see national chairman from the south, presidential candidate from the north. That's how we have been since 1998, when Obasanjo picked the ticket and Chief Solomon Lai was the party chairman. But this time around, things have been changing. And then the process actually, for me, like I said in that last interview before the elections, actually started in 2014. And these principal players are still the ones within the party. So for me, I think that we must have truth and truly reconcile. It is not about camps. There are camps. Even in Benue, I have my own camp because Benue is supposed to go for these congresses that is coming. My own local government, Ado, has not produced the state chairman, and I think that Ado should produce the chairman.
What kind of truth are you talking about in this case?
You see, the thing about politics, let me tell you this, Chamberlain, my brother, is that one of the things, as somebody who has understudied most of these people, I've worked for former Senate President David Mark, former Senate President Saraki, Professor Jerry Garner, late Senator Isaiah Ballat. I've been with these guys. They have been grooming me in the last 18 years. I can tell you this. I have noticed that political culture stems from our personal, idiosyncrasies. And I can tell you that there's some meetings that we go for, and we do, and there's an agreement. Then they go outside and they do a completely different thing. Now, you cannot run, as even in a band of armed robbers, there's some honor and respect within armed robbers, not to talk of politicians that are respectable men of the society. I'm saying that we must tell ourselves the truth. You can't be shouting like Ugo Chinyere, shouting that there must be discipline in the party, there must be, punishment for those that did anti-party. Then I'll say, hey, what about those that did it in 2014, that actually left the party, joined the APC to remove a sitting PDP government? What did you do with them?
So that has not been dealt with?
It hasn't been dealt with. You rewarded them with our presidential ticket in 2019, in 2023. So don't bring all those issues here. Let's tell ourselves the basic truth, that the party has been moving in, that is, political interests and political ambitions has trumped the party objective.
But you were the one who said that the party also has its own internal ways of resolving problems.
To stop the implosion. You won't see PDP implode. No, you won't hear those unnecessary...
But when you see how, things have gotten out of hand, the fact that the party hasn't won anything, at the national level, and this has been like a self-inflicted injury.
Yes, it's PDP versus PDP.
Yeah, would you really say that this internal resolution or internal conflict mechanism for resolution is working? Is it really working?
I think, let me quote your guest yesterday, a very respectable member of our party, Barrister Humphrey Abba, who said that you cannot bring, maybe as a lawyer, my brother can even add to this, you cannot bring somebody that is already partisan in the process to be the judge. You have to get people who are non-partisan. And in this case, it is conflicting because there are very few people that are not partisan. Like, I don't want to call names.
So was there a resolution yesterday from what you saw? Does it appear that there is now an attempt to move towards truth?
Yes,
and then reconciliation?
Yes, the NEC set up a disciplinary and reconciliatory commission. I am advising that we must tell ourselves the basic truth. We did not follow the party constitution. We're in breach of it. There's rotation in the PDP constitution. We didn't follow it. There are some people that have hurt the party, that they have not been redressed. Instead, they've been rewarded with certain things within the party. We should tell ourselves the truth. And then we should reward and acknowledge people like former Governor Nyesom Wike, who have been a pillar in the party. I mean, we don't reward people that have stood for the party, fought for the party, funded the party. Instead, we play some kind of ethno-religious politics at the end of the day. And young leaders like myself, we strongly disagree with those processes. And so we must have that truth and reconciliation. Tell ourselves the in-house truth, minimum truth, to say this is what it is before we can move on to building a stronger opposition party.
Do you disagree with that?
Well, he has said so many things. I don't know which one to agree with.
Well, first and foremost, do you think that there was camps yesterday and one camp won or had the upper
like I
hand
said last
in the
week,
yesterday?
like I said last week, there are interests. I do not see camps. And it is unfortunate the way the media reports these political activities. It seems like a deliberate ploy to stoke crisis in the party. When I saw it, Atiku, Wike's camp trounced Atiku, I don't see it like that. I don't see it like that. There are interests. And
so which interest prevailed yesterday?
None. The party prevailed yesterday. The party prevailed. Nobody can go and say, I won or the other one lost. The party prevailed.
And whose interest was it that Damagum stayed?
It is in the party's interest. We need the party stabilized. All right. I said that much last week. Damagum has been stabilizing the party, and that is why he has not been wielding the big hammer on people.
Okay, you'll still respond further. I mean, Ayo's got questions for both of you. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Mr. Ono, let me stick with you. There's something that Mr. Ijogi said the other time when he said the party seems to have breached its own process in the build-up to the general elections of 2023, that ideally it should have been national chairman from one side of the country and the presidential candidate from the other. But this time around, it was toppled. Now, there are those naturally who would say, okay, this is part of the problem. Now, how do you think that the party can deal with that? Because looking at the room yesterday, it seemed that there's a lot of tension. Tension was still very, very high. But that issue is like an elephant in the room that anyone can see. How should the party deal with that in the light of what Mr. Ijogi also called truth and reconciliation?
Well, thank you, Makinde. If you want to start talking about truth and reconciliation, you're just going to burn down the house. We've passed that place. We are no longer in the 2023 presidential or general election. The crisis that was generated by that election have largely been put behind us. This is a completely new politics. It is about 2027. It's not about 2023 anymore. People are strategizing to take control of the party ahead of 2027. So the earlier you understand that, or we understand that, the better. So what we need to do now, if there are mistakes made in the 2023 build-up 2023 election, we need to avoid such mistakes going forward. And that is why I said the national chairmanship position is strictly for the North. Now, if that is agreed, the national chairmanship position is strictly for the North, are we now going to insist that the presidential candidate in 2027 comes from the South? That would be in line with the spirit of the Constitution, right? So the North can take the chairman, the South prepares for who will become president, and then the issue is sorted. But if we continue to dilly-dally on this issue, we will not really make headway.
Well, Mr. Ono, the question that I'm asking, just 1 second. Just 1 second.
In 2025.
Yeah, my apologies if you can hear me, Mr. Ono. The reason I asked the question is not to take us back, because it's only natural for someone to say, well, you know what someone is going to do by what he's done before. And if you don't want to repeat your mistake, you redress it, find out exactly where you're coming from. So if it happened the other time and everyone knew the culture, I don't know whether it's a rule, everyone knew the culture of the House and the PDP, national chairman from one side of the country, the presidential candidate from the other side of the country, it didn't happen. As Mr. Ijogi also said, do you think that wound, if I can call it that, has been healed?
Well, that has not impacted on the party to the extent of disintegrating the party. That's what I'm saying. The party still stands. We lost the last election. So we're moving forward. We're looking ahead to 2027. This National Working Committee's tenure elapses in 2025. If the party now agree to zone that chairmanship position to the South, it will follow that the North will produce a presidential candidate Or the South can argue that a precedent have been set.
Okay.
That the same zone that has chairman can also produce presidential candidate. Because politics, just like law, you also follow precedents and traditions.
Okay.
So
Well, let me ask.
The politics becomes a precedent.
Yes.
People can look back to what happened in 2023 tomorrow and say it has happened before.
All right, let me ask Mr. Ijogi the same question, if he
what
agrees. Yes. I don't know if Mr. Ijogi agrees with you that we can just move on without dealing with what happened in the past.
No, certainly not. I slightly disagree with my brother here, Ono. I think that in the political process, you must deal with specific issues and calm specificness, because it's about political interests. It's about personal ambitions. Now, you must ensure that your personal ambition is not bigger than that of the parties. Now, if there are disagreements, and in this case, very strong disagreements, and like I said in this same station, during the run-up to the 2023 election, you look at it and everybody's shouting yes or Winke. It's not yes or Winke. There were so many people around who disagreed with the whole process. It's not only the G5 governors. There are so many others. Yes or Winke was just the arrowhead of the G5. Now, you must get everybody together in a room and say, you know what? We made a mistake. This is what we are going to do moving forward. Moving forward, we are going to stick to the rules of the game. And as politicians and as leaders, we must provide and build a stronger, viral political party that stand instead, or as opposition party that is ready to be the next government. I mean, look at all the failings of the APC. The PDP has gone to sleep. I mean, I actually thought Chamberlain was going to talk to me about my ideas of running the party, because I was going to talk about preventionists and innovationists, which are the two ideological bases within the party.
Yeah.
People who want to change the party, and people who want to preserve.
Which is where we should actually go. Just a second. Which is where we should actually go, because I was going to ask you, so the issue has not been resolved. Frayed nerves have not been calmed. The consequence didn't just affect the presidential ambition of the PDP as a party. It also affects several other interests of the party in the last election. In order to avoid such a thing happening or perpetuating itself, what do you think should be done from the issues you intended to raise? What are the things that need to be done now to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this coffer all the time?
Okay, let me confirm to you, my brother, that the crisis that you have, or the disagreements more like that you have in the party, is not only at the national level. Even in Plateau, we have not resolved it. You remember, we lost all our National Assembly seats on the Plateau because of some slight difference between two political gladiators on the Plateau. I think that moving forward, the People's Democratic Party should not only set up a reconciliatory committee, we should move beyond that. We should go to a point where we get the party solid, so as to ensure that you remove the causes of all these problems. That is over-bloated ambition, that is imposition, injustice, high-headedness, people feeling the right of entitlement. We should make sure we structure all these things nicely and put people in position who can actually face these political gladiators to reduce and stem down their over-bloated ambition and their level of entitlement. I think that we need strong party hands and ensure that the PDP transforms into an institution, and that is not built on any individual, an institution that it is.
How do both of you think that the party needs to get young people back on the side? Because many think the horse has since bolted from the stable ever since the last elections.
Well, Chamberlain, thank you for that question. I said so to the runoff of the last election. The 6-point-something million votes that Obi got, they're not members of Labour. All of them are not members of Labour Party. I told them the election or electoral demography in Nigeria is changing. Young people who were born in 1999 at the turn of this democracy are 25 years old. They are beginning to, or 24 years old, or 25, yeah, they are beginning to think differently. That to include them in this process, we must recruit the best and brightest of them. We must reach out to these young people. And then when they look at the PDP chairman, all they are seeing at the PDP, all they are seeing is Bode George or Silas, who's an ancestor who was in a PDP chairman in 1999. They get discouraged.
Is it the same side as
You said you have been ever
it's been an ages.
Well,
Did you see that coming?
The thing is, change cannot be dramatic. Change must be gradual. When you listen to my friend here and the complaints of crisis, you cannot have a political party without divergent interests. It is interest that people call crisis. It will always be there. Those who don't have their way will say the party is not working. Those who have their way will say everything is well with the party, right? So you can't do away with crisis in a political party. After all, it is a place where people come with different ideas on how to run a party. And gradually, those who are interested in leadership position have to make themselves available for it. You need to participate in your politics locally, from your ward. You don't sit in Abuja and be expecting to become a national chairman or national youth leader. You can see the PDP for the first time in a long while. Look at our national youth leader, young one. We used to be a party where a national youth leader would be in his 60s. All political parties. But gradually, these changes are taking place.
Yeah, but do you think that was actually an anomaly in the sense that, the reason why there was a national youth leader was to ensure that there was somebody who was representing that demography and catering. So do you think that in some ways hampers young people from aspiring to the highest position within the party?
No.
Because right now, if somebody...
I think so. I think that the party should do
it. Somebody decides, somebody young, maybe in his 40s, decides, or 30s, decides to run for national chairman. They'll say, isn't national youth leader enough for you people?
No, there's a 44-year-old.
Let me say something now. Let's say it as it is. The Nigerian political party system, not just PDP, is not yet one where you aspire and they say there is a vacancy for national chairman now. As he is contending that he's North Central, he's from North Central. He can't just buy form and say he wants to contest for national chairman.
Why not?
He'll be wasting his money.
Maybe he will talk to that.
He'll be wasting his money, he knows, because the interests will not accommodate him. There are people who already are eyeing who they want for the chairman.
Let's quickly respond.
It's not an elective position where you have people just come and based on your campaign manifesto, they vote for you.
Can you vie for the chairman?
Doesn't work.
Of course. I'm actually even consulting. I think that PDP, my way to answer, PDP should move away from this structure of youth, woman leader, youth leader. I think we should move away from not too young to run to not too young to lead. That's how I want to end my statement today.
Okay. That's not a bad place to end it because, yes, Business Morning on Sunrise, it will be coming up on the hour. But we have to thank both of you for coming on.
Thank you.
Adakole, Ijogi, and Silas, on members of PDP. So we will be back after that, but hang on. It's business news.
That's right, it's Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this side of the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa, and we start as usual with what's going on in the global space. Always good to start from the macro before you head to the micro. Oil prices jumped on Friday as reports that Israel had attacked Iran world market and sparked concerns that Middle East oil supply could be disrupted. And this is not new retaliation to what Israel did in Iran. And so let's look at the numbers right there. We see that even though we had been very close to 100, we're now up to $88.51 a barrel. But that's after oil prices. That's Brent had gained 1.61%, and WTI had gained 1.68% at $83.48 a barrel. So, of course, Israel launching that attack on Iran is a major factor. That's the latest on that exchange between the two countries that threatens to drag the region deeper into conflict. Iranian media, however, reported explosions, but an Iranian official said that they were caused by air defense systems. So you see a lot of contradiction right there. Well, other matters affecting oil prices this morning. Global crude oil supply. Venezuela lost a key U.S. license, allowing the OPEC member to export oil to markets globally. Also, the U.S. has announced announced sanctions on Iran, and we know how powerful Iran is when it comes to contributing to oil supply. Another OPEC member targeting its unmanned aerial vehicle after the country's drone attack on Israel. The sanctions on Iran, however, excludes oil industry, but of course we know sentiments around all of that could affect prices. Now we come to Washington, where the International Monetary Fund has projected a slight increase in Nigeria's debt to GDP ratio, which is expected to reach 46.6% this year from 46.3% last year. The IMF, which made this known during the meetings, are still ongoing. I think major conversations will end tomorrow, Saturday. They said that the rise suggests increased borrowing potentially for infrastructure and social programs or to counter economic shocks, while concerns arise about fiscal sustainability. The report indicates that Nigeria's debt remains manageable when compared to other countries. And so perhaps a little bit of comfort, but I guess we shouldn't relax too much. Now let's look at how the Naira is doing. Are the good days over? I don't know, and I don't want to say that. Yesterday, Thursday, NAFIX weekend, by 9 Naira 99 kobo. That's it. The Naira lost. And it's been, this is the third day, I believe, that the Naira is losing this week. It was down 7.58%. On NAFEM, it closed at 1,154 Naira 8 kobo. And then it opened at 1,072 Naira 74 kobo. And then for NAFEX, closed at 1,138 Naira and 82 kobo, even though it's open. So we see the Naira dropping, and we've seen this since the concerns about the reserve. Do we see that the reserve is depleting because of the defense of the Naira? We heard the CBN governor at Washington say, well, there are other income that have been coming from FX. We have the income from diaspora and all of that. And remember that the government has been very active in the financial market, in the money market. We've seen bonds auctions almost every week, oversubscribed with good rates. So the CBN governor is trying to calm nerves to say, oh, it's not about the reserve, but I mean, we've seen the Naira depreciating, in these coming days, unfortunately. And now let's move over to all right, so let's just take a quick conversation on all of this. LCCI has been talking about this, especially that single window platform that the federal government also introduced. We have the president, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Dahosa, joins us virtually from Abuja. Mr. Dahosa, good morning.
Morning.
Great. Good to see you. I mean, I was afraid we're not going to have you. So you had a press conference yesterday. You're talking about some of the reforms that the government has introduced. Could you share with us your thoughts?
Well, essentially, we looked at the various reforms and we saw how they were panning out, and we commended the government that some of the reforms are beginning to show results. Public transportation is now improving in terms of costs because of the CNG buses that are now running on the road, and we expected that a lot more of that will bring down the cost of transportation, which will translate into lowering the food inflation, because a huge component of food inflation is transportation along the value chain from the farm to the dinner table. We also recognize that the foreign exchange management has improved significantly after the unification of all the rates, and we thought government was doing well on that. But of course, the big one that we think a lot of work still needs to be done is on security, because security affects all the other sectors of the economy. And we thought that a lot more needs to be done. On par, we thought, as the rest of the observers of the economy have mentioned for several years, that government needed to bring private investment into transmission, because it's the transmission that seems to be dragging both generating and distribution down. Generation is up to about 13, 14 megawatts, gigawatts, and then distribution is doing well in most parts of the country, but transmission, we still have collapse of the grid from time to time. So these are some of the things we thought government should look at, and we hope that in the course of the next few months, we begin to see some improvement, especially on the back of two major improvements that we have seen: the local production of petroleum products from Dangote, Nigerian flights to the US, to the UK. Those two major events, which we mentioned in our report, are strategic enterprises that have a very long value chain affecting almost the whole of the economy. And we thought that the government should identify these strategic enterprises like Dangote, like the airlines, and give them all the support, customized support to ensure, for example, that we have our airlines using all our bilateral services, which means that in the UK, for example, we still have 14 flights. We need to get 21 flights like the foreign airlines are flying to Nigeria from the UK. So we believe that government should identify those critical enterprises that require additional support, around which there's a lot of value chain. If the refinery one is very clear, the very long value chain. In the airline business, if we have more of our airlines flying to foreign countries, we save foreign currency from the ticket sales, and we earn foreign currency from ticket sales they make in the other countries. So this is a summary of the press conference, identifying areas where the government has done significantly well and areas where we think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, and you were also concerned about the national single window for the exporters and importers, and you did make some suggestions on how you think it can be implemented for a more robust impact.
Yes, it's very early in the day. That just announced barely 24 hours before we had that quarterly conference, and we had said that in most of these major government policies and activities, that the players, the active players involved, the exporters, in this case, the importers, have to be parts of the process. Because if they are not part of the process of design and implementation, it is after the fact that we begin to see a lot of corrections and amendments that you need to make. For a good example is the student loan situation, where we had to make another law to correct a lot of aspects that were not foreseen in the initial design of student loan. So we are saying, again, for this single window, the active players around this new policy should be embedded in the implementation before it is 100% rolled out, so that we can avoid easily foreseeable issues and not wait until we are running it full steam and then we have to take a break and correct them. That's essentially the essence of our opinion on what is a very another great innovation by government, but the process of implementation will be faster and better if the core players are integrated at this time before it becomes a full-blown program.
Yeah, so I hope you're having conversations with the government because now there's a steering committee. I honestly do not know those who make up that committee. But, I mean, I hope you're having conversations such as this so that, you know, these elements are infused at this early days.
We can say that for this government, both at the federal and state level, we are actively engaged in a lot of conversations. Almost every week we are involved, and apart from the mentioned the press conference yesterday, we are directly involved with the agencies concerned. And to be fair to government, they also let us know and call us to have these conversations. And yes, there's a lot of conversations going on before the full rollout. And we believe that some of the gray areas will be resolved in the next days or weeks before we see a full implementation of the program.
All right, thank you so much, President, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Gabriel Dahosa, for your time and thoughts this morning.
Thank you.
Well, one of those areas that Mr. Dahosa talked about is the Dangote, talking about energy, security. We did have this conversation on Business Incorporated yesterday with an executive from Dangote, but let's look at it from the economics perspective now with the Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company, Mr. Bismarck Rwani. Mr. Rwani joins us in the studio. Mr. Rwani, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for your time coming into the studio. We appreciate that. So, well, of course, consumers or Nigerians are being pushed on many sides. Yesterday, we talked about the possibility of telecoms. They are hinting us that they might, implement their own hike also of tariff. But at least we have one sucker coming from Dangote. And so we see Dangote telling us that diesel is not even going to be the 1,225, they said. It's not going to be 1,000. So, of course, this gives us a little bit of relief as Nigerians, even though we wonder how long it will take for this to sip down into real commodity prices.
Thank you. I think, as you can say and see, the point is that what's the almighty power of diesel? Why diesel? Diesel is so important, right? In the fractional distillation column of the refinery.
So the almighty power of diesel.
Yes. You can see the price is down from 1,700, which it was last year, to 1,000 Naira. This is big, right? But it's not just, why diesel? We talk about petrol, we talk about this. Diesel is very...
petrol seems to be the most popular in the petroleum products in Nigeria.
In Nigeria, but that is not the truth. The truth is that diesel is used for powering trucks across different parts of the country. It is used for your generators, right? It is used for thermal production of cement in furnaces, and it is so significant, right, in the process. And you will see as we go along what is the impact of a reduction of this magnitude in diesel, especially the price of diesel. When it was 1,700, the global price of oil was 75. Today, the global price of oil 88, and yet the price. So there's that inverse relationship now, and that tells you that if the price of oil was at 74, which it was 6 months ago, then you would have been seeing diesel at 800 Naira a liter. So,
but I'd like to ask, we don't have price control in Nigeria. So Dangote is selling at 1,000 Naira. Obviously, the retailers, those who will buy from him, are going to do markup for their logistics, for their profits and all of that. Is there anything to stop them from still exploiting consumers?
No, there is, because the supply. Dangote has capacity for 650,000 barrels a day. If you store it, basically if you want to speculate and hoard diesel, you spend so much time. You spend a lot of money for hoarding, right? So it doesn't work that way, because the cost of storing it becomes much more than your margin you make, and you'll be speculating. So if you speculate that the price of oil is going to go back up, and then you're storing it, no, you're going to lose. And you can see that is where the diesel price has gone all the way up, and now it's down this way. Now all the way this way.
And then we see it obviously connected to headline inflation.
Headline inflation. There is a strong correlation between the price of diesel and inflation, because diesel is used for many of those products, and we'll get to that in a minute, right? But the reality is that, let us take, for example, a loaf of bread. A loaf of bread is today costing 1,400, this loaf of bread, right? Diesel accounts for 25% of the cost of production for bakeries, because once you start the oven, if you're using NEPA or whatever, if there's a power cut, the dough, you lose everything. So once you want to start the oven, you put on all your generators on, and this drives it. And based on this configuration, you will see that the price of bread by the end of next month will be down to 1,200.
Can we hold you to that, Mr. Rwani?
Theoretically, yes. Now let's go to a tuber of yam.
Yes, really expensive these
Very
days.
expensive, 3,500 the current price. Because the cost of transportation has reduced, if you're buying diesel at 1,000 rather than 1,700, that loaf of bread, that tuber of yam could come down to as low as 2,700 Naira. Very, very important, because logistics cost is a major part. In fact, 15% of cost of companies is logistics and distribution. This brings it down. Then the most perishable of them all, which is tomatoes, 35,000 Naira current price. If you bring it down, and because the cost of transporting it is faster and the cost of storing it in your storage depot comes down, you can bring it down to 25,000 all of this is based on the fact that if this price is held and is sustainable, the question you ask is that what is the landed cost of diesel if you're importing it? The landed cost of diesel today is about almost 1,100. Therefore, we have no choice but to buy from our local refinery. That is the modular refineries, the Dangote refineries, and the old refineries that are being resuscitated with the turnaround maintenance. So this is what we're seeing. And it goes on. And the impact, this is where, what is the thing that determines the price of diesel? The global price of oil, which we've seen, it's not 88. The distribution cost of diesel has to be transported itself with the trucks, right, and the tankers. Then the power grid. We've had so many collapses. Normally, at a time when you have so many collapses, the demand for diesel which will increase, right, because we are transmitting only about 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts. Actually, we are seeing a drop in the price of diesel, which means the supply of diesel is probably far in excess of the aggregate demand at this point.
So it begs this question: is this 1,000 naira by Dangote sustainable? You know, because okay, you have noted the determinant, and of course we know by now because at this point what's going on between Israel and Iran, we see prices, global oil prices going up, and yet we see 1,000 naira in Nigeria. Is that sustainable?
Why? Because Nigeria produces crude. Nigeria refines this crude for now. But the Nigerian economy is vulnerable to exogenous shocks. There's nothing you can do.
And we know that Dangote is importing crude.
Importing in some places, we're also buying domestically from NNPC. We are hoping that NNPC will continue to supply Dangote and the local refineries and the modular refineries. If that happens, you might be able to actually sustain this price. But there are too many things that are going on at the same time. Exchange rate appreciation, which is now stabilizing. When all of these things come together, you will find that, like I said, the impact on the economy, let's take this one after the other. Yeah. GDP growth is going to expand at least to 4.5% because of this, if it is sustained over a year. It adds about 1 to 1.5% to GDP. Inflation rate comes down because of the transportation effect and all of those. If inflation rate, food inflation, core inflation, but there's a higher profit margin because once costs come down for companies, then their margins increase and then they'll be able to pass this on to consumers or increase their profitability. Of course, lower operating costs. But what is more important that...
And this is interesting, higher salaries, Mr. Arwani. This is very important.
Well, you have to pay... What happens is that when inflation reduces, you are effectively increasing salaries because people are spending less.
Purchasing power.
Absolutely. But also we still have the minimum wage issue, which is hanging in the, which is the big elephant in the room. So if you have an increase in minimum wage at the same time as reducing cost of production, it's a win-win for workers and a win-win for government because the government gets higher taxes, GDP grows, inflation lower, exchange rate stays stable and begins to appreciate.
Yeah, Mr. Ryan, let's deviate a bit. I saw a story on Bloomberg that Nigeria is going to be the 4th largest economy. We used to be the 1st. Talking about this GDP, that we're going to be the 4th now because of Naira, devaluation, and all of that. And obviously that is heartbreaking. But what I want to ask is, there's the issue of rebasing. And, we've celebrated Naira appreciating. Unfortunately, in the last couple of days, it's been depreciating. Do you see us escaping that?
Yeah, definitely. That figure is for December 2023. In December 2023, the exchange rate had got as high as 1,900. Now, that exchange rate has appreciated to about 1,100. Now, therefore, if you take the position as of December, that could be true. The GDP will come to about almost $284 billion. But if you add about 30% back, because the exchange rate, you have to take 30% of that almost $300 billion. So you come back to where's the 380 to 400 billion. So I wouldn't lose any sleep about the size of the economy.
But what about now that the Naira seems to be depreciating again?
No, it's only depreciated by 1 or 2%. And no currency stays static. There's dynamic equilibrium in and misalignment of the currency. When things change, the price of oil increases, your diaspora flows increase, you have your Eurobond program coming up, the currency would be more stable rather than volatile. And the reality is that we think that, yes, it's been overbought in terms of it's gone all the way. In fact, some people are doing transactions at below 1,000. 1,100?
Yes,
the
BBC told us that they were purchasing at 980.
Yeah, but it kind of sounds like artificial. And we think that it will stabilize at current levels and will not depreciate very sharply, at least in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So tell us, back to 1,000 Naira, how much do you have a company, you purchase in recent times since Dangote started the 1,000 Naira thing? Have you bought diesel?
I bought diesel, but when I tried to buy diesel, the guy sold it about 1,240. He said he bought diesel before at 1,400. So selling it to me at 1,250 is that he's blending part of the new price with the old price. And I didn't have time to wait because I had no power, so I had to buy it at 1,250. Am I going to buy that at 1,250 next week? No, obviously. As the price comes down and the Dangote supply gets into the market, we begin to bring down the average cost. It's not just the marginal cost. The average cost of the diesel in the tank, which he has bought, right, will now go down. But the question is that when the price of diesel went up, they sold the old stock at the new price.
Exactly,
now
because they said they wanted to prepare for restocking.
Yeah, now that the price of diesel has come down, they are selling the old stock at the old price and are not selling the new stock at the new price. So, but again...
Is it a Nigerian thing?
Well, no. Consumers, in theory, the consumer is always a king. In reality, in Nigeria, consumer is probably the slave.
Unfortunately. So, I mean, apart from diesel, Dangote has promised, I think they're already doing jet fuel.
Yes.
The executive told us yesterday. But, I mean, I think the biggest one would be petrol, where we're told that it will be in supply in a couple of weeks.
Yes. But listen, next week they're coming up with dual-purpose kerosene, which is part aviation fuel and part kerosene being used. But also, you know, because the price of kerosene is likely to decline, you've seen the price of cooking gas also begin to drop. So these things have a pull effect, and it pulls all those prices in the same direction. So what are you going to see at the end of the day? Core inflation, which is more structural, will be a bit sticky. Food inflation, which depends on movement of goods, will begin to decline. And the non-food basket begins to decline. However, you know that the price of diesel is very, very important for the base stations of the telcos. So there are at least almost 40 to 50,000 base stations in the country, right? And those base stations run on diesel. They have 3 generators in each base station. They run on diesel. If the price of diesel has come down from 1,700 to 1,000, it means the cost of running those base stations will drop automatically. But there are other costs that go into because there are a lot of things that go into telco, and the discussion of the telco pricing is a discussion for another day, not today.
Obviously. But, I mean, sometimes, isn't it scary that it seems a lot is being expected of Dangote? We're talking of diesel, which is the major field for industrial activities.
Yes.
We're talking of jet fuel for the aviation sector, and now we're looking forward to petrol. And so everything coming from one source, it sounds scary, isn't it?
No, it's not. Now, the fear of what you call a monopoly, that is not a potent fear. Right? The reality is that there are Port Harcourt, 2 refineries, Kaduna, Warri refineries. There are modular refineries, right? So, and Dangote's refinery being the single train largest in the world, 650,000 barrels a day, is to support the whole of West and Central Africa. So not only will the Dangote refinery be producing for Nigeria, they'll be producing for the rest of West Africa and Central Africa. And so the economies of scale begin to kick in. Nigeria begins to benefit. And you find that, I understand, that the Dangote refinery is going to be listed. So Nigerians will have a chance to buy into it. And when they buy into it, then what we call the democracy of capitalism, where there'll be many shareholders and be getting the dividends. I think but the most important thing is that Will it help to spur growth? Yes. Will it help to create employment? Yes. Is it important that it has a linkage with other areas? It's very important. Therefore, it's not whether it's the Dangote refinery, the refining process for Nigeria, including all the other refineries, will benefit, and the Nigerian people will benefit eventually. I think that's it. That's the message, that bringing down the price of diesel, if it is sustainable and it's maintained that way, will help to bring down the cost of doing business in Nigeria and the profitability of companies that are operating all over the country.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Mr. Rwani. I think even the president of LCC has said, I mean, governments and people of Nigeria should support Dangote and, you know, people like Air Peace, you know, because these are domestic entrepreneurs feeding.
But even international airlines are going to be refueling in Nigeria because the price of aviation fuel here will be lower than refueling in other locations.
So I can imagine what that could do, especially to our FX liquidity. That will really go a long way.
Well, you know, every drop matters.
Every drop matters, and every note, every dollar matters.
You better believe that.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Chief Executive Officer of Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for your time. All right, so I mean, I don't think we can talk about this Dangote enough, especially as we count down. That couple of weeks were promised before the petrol, and I mean, Mr. Rwani has just told us now we can expect kerosene also. So imagine what that would do to the economy. So just before we get back to the Sunrise Daily studio, let's see how the market closed yesterday. Unfortunately, it's still in the red. Talking about the NGX, dropped 0.06%. And yes, we're still below the 100,000. That gives our hearts some warmth. 99,845.91. Equity is still at 56. There was a time we're hoping we'll hit 60, but I guess we have to wait very long for those days. And we see activity yesterday was red as expected. Top trades, profit-taking is still the theme at the NGX. Access Core, they're having their AGM today, by the way, so you can look out for that news and some of the decisions that they'll be making. GTCO also, UBA, yes, the Fugas dropped yesterday. Profit-taking is still very prominent in that sector. So we see GTCO, Access Code, GTCO, and UBA were down. Bringing, of course, the market down below, still sustaining below the 100,000. If we can go to the unlisted market yesterday, there the flip side, of investors running from NGX there. We see that they closed up 2.64%, which is a lot, sustaining the 1,000 level right there, and market cap at over 1 trillion naira, 1.435 trillion naira. The activity chart was mixed, but mostly green yesterday for the NASD. And then the reigning market now seems to be the fixed income markets, with auctions and rates going up. A lot of investors seems to be taking a lot of interest in there. So we see at the FGM bonds yesterday, there were 28 deals worth 20.27 billion naira. For the treasury bills, 16, and then worth 14.14, and OMO from the central bank, just one deal yesterday, but I mean worth 2 billion naira. So we'll have more on the markets, obviously, at 1 p.m. You don't want to miss Business Incorporated. But for now, I think we have to rush back to the Sunrise Daily studio, where they have another conversation waiting for you.
Welcome back. Well, yes, indeed, we're turning our attention to a matter that ordinarily you may not think you need to stop and have a look. But first, let's introduce our guest. We've got Dr. Ojualakpe Sholanke, who is a National Project Manager, Andrew Project, and Dr. Zainab Ahmed Idris, who is a Project Coordinator, Andrew Project for Kaduna State. Now, both of them are talking about we'll be talking about nutrition, malnutrition actually, because there's actually a National Council on Malnutrition. And the reason is because the vice president who chairs that did say not long ago that at the moment we have a severe case of malnutrition, which is about 33% of the country. And that at the moment we lose 2.5 billion naira annually for this deficiency. And that is something that should concern anyone. So, I mean, this figure, given the economic challenges back and forth, may just be on the rise when they have the next check or data gathering process. But I should start by asking, first of all, when you talk about malnutrition, even I had to look, wait a minute, so what is it with this? Do you get the same reaction from people who think, why should I be talking about malnutrition in the first place?
Yeah, malnutrition, the issue of malnutrition. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
The issue of malnutrition in Nigeria is such one that is in an alarming state that everybody, every stakeholder, everyone should be involved. So I'm not even surprised that one of the key agenda points of the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, His Excellency, through the Ministry of Health, has put the issue of malnutrition as one of his priority, at the moment, because I wish we have, a pictorial view. There's a distinct difference between the brain of a malnourished child and that of a well-nourished child, to the extent that a malnourished child has the likelihood of dying, either dying or not fulfilling its potential. So you can link that to economic index in future, because he might not be able to do well in school. He might not even be able to attend school in the first place. He won't be able to do well, and eventually he grows to be, an adult who might not be able to fend for himself. So you can see the economic impact directly relating to issue of malnutrition.
I'm just a little curious. Whenever it is we think about malnutrition, I'm wondering whether, is it as a result of ignorance, that people do not know what foods to eat in what combination? Because oftentimes that's what nutrition is about, knowing what to eat, what is appropriate for you at whatever age, and in the quantity that you should eat it. Or is it that, people have become so poor that they know these foods but can barely afford them?
So it's actually multifactorial. We can have poverty, being responsible for malnutrition, in fact, lack of access, to healthcare, lack of access to the right food, ignorance is still one of it, because there's a direct linkage between, education of a woman and the way the child of such a woman would perform, or the woman would be able to take care of his or her family.
But in Nigeria, what have we found to be the largest cause of malnutrition?
So for Nigeria, ignorance is still one of it. Lack of access to healthcare services, water and sanitation, and poor maternal and infant young child feeding, nutrition rather. So these are some of the factors that aggregate to really drive the issue down further.
What about you, Dr. Mohammed Idris? What have you generally found in your approach to this?
Well, maybe coming back to the question that she asked, there are many determinants, what we call the social determinants, that includes the practices of our individuals and our people. You find out that even in some places where the food is available, the practice of that combination that you talked about may be very poor. They do not know how to process the food, how to identify those nutrients or nutrient-rich food that will really be helpful, especially when we talk about the first 1,000 days of a child's life. That brings us to the issue of how the brain grows and what the child needs to be able to optimally grow right from the time that the child is in the womb. And then we also have other issues like illnesses, because of the poor hygienic environment that we have. A lot of the times you find out that children fall ill and they cannot be able to really take enough food, so there's poor nutrition, and it's like a vicious circle. So that perpetuation actually throws them into malnutrition. So there are many factors, really. Sometimes they don't even have access to services that are required, immunization, ability to ensure that when a child comes down with diarrhea, they are able to manage that condition. So if a child is not properly positioned to survive, they tend to gravitate to become malnourished over time. And like I said, it starts from the time that the child is in the womb.
So is ANRIN focused on child malnutrition, and then some said, so is it that another cannot be malnourished?
Actually, okay. Yeah.
Isolating nutrition results in Nigeria is the intervention of federal government of Nigeria to the issue of malnutrition, and the objective is to increase the utilization of cost-effective and quality cost-effective services, nutrition services, and the way we work, we try to increase the supply and the demand. For the supply side, we're in the communities at different states where we work, providing services, those common services that would really have high impact in the lives of maternal,
such as what kind of service?
Okay, providing counseling for mothers when they are pregnant. We mentioned the first 1,000, how critical the first 1,000 days of life is. It starts from the womb. Immediately, the mother is well nourished first, and we do this by administering the IFA, iron and folic acid, to pregnant women. We ensure that they take the adequate doses, that is required for the effective growth, for their well-being first, and the effective growth of the babies they are carrying. And again, we still do a lot of, we provide services, such services to pregnant women, and you counsel them for exclusive breastfeeding, at the delivery of the child, counseling we provide complementary feeding for micronutrient supplementation, when the child is between the age of 6 months and 59 months, we do that. And we ensure that, such services, zinc and ORS, she made mention about little illnesses that should not even drive a child to further assault, but when they have diarrhea, they are taught, women are taught, mothers are taught how to provide ORS with zinc that will help them to recuperate and get their energy back. And apart from doing that, we still provide services at the primary healthcare centers where food demonstrations. We know everything should not be about the pharmaceutical interventions. Food demonstrations still go on at the community level, at the health facilities, but at the community level, we do a lot of counseling, and we collect data directly from those service points up onto the national level, where we look at this data, analyze them, we see where our interventions are doing well and where we can further improve on them.
There's a popular saying that if you don't eat your food as medicine, you eat medicine as food. Yeah. And we sincerely hope that, our mothers don't have to eat medicine, even children eat medicine as food. Dr. Kwano, let me ask you how it's been. What has the acceptance rate been like? Because I know that next week you're having an engagement with religious leaders, and people wonder what exactly is the bearing with nutrition and engaging religious leaders. But how has it been accepted? For instance, trying to give women folic acid and iron tablets. Has it been widely accepted in the areas where you currently have presence?
Yes, definitely. In fact, it's very, very encouraging to see our women and child caregivers uptaking some of these services. Let me quickly talk about the issue of the ANRIN project again. It's largely preventive, more like ensuring that the counseling that the National Program Manager had mentioned, our women, our caregivers, our duty bearers, especially those community leaders that are influencers, they've been able to uptake some of this information. They now know what it means to really situate our children, our women, to be well nourished, so that they could also be able to survive the rigors of life. The counseling has helped a great deal to pass on those messages and information that makes for improved maternal, infant, and young child nutrition practices. In addition, we also have had a chance of meeting them in their homes, not just waiting for them to patronize the health facilities, but meeting them in their homes to make sure that these services are made available. We call them the basic package of nutrition services. She has mentioned them. In addition, we also have deworming, Children, we all know that some of the key things that prevents them from getting the right nutrients for them to thrive is because of the infestation, worm infestation. So the deworming has helped to reduce, that burden, and they're able to survive it. So that acceptance is really very high. And in fact, they are very, very much aware, much more than before the ANRIM project came on board. We've also had an opportunity of engaging with community structures, the ward development committees, the community volunteers, various other groups that work at the community level.
It's a good thing you just highlighted that, because I was about to ask, how many are you people? Imagine that you're maybe situated in the state capital and you have to get to all of the local governments, primary health care centers. What system, what structure do you walk through?
Well, first and foremost, we have the community intervention, which non-state actors have helped to deliver this basic package of nutrition services. They go house to house, and they've been able to reach a substantial... Actors. Yeah, we have private sector involvement, working within the existing structures at the community and state level. At the community level, we have what we call the service providers, the food soldiers, the community volunteers that have been able to go house to house to deliver these services. This has created more awareness on the need to sustain some of these efforts, and it has also led to mobilization of our community members to patronize and utilize our healthcare delivery services.
So why the engagement with religious leaders?
Well, we've seen the result from the polio. If you recall how we battled with polio, where their non-involvement had actually led to the prolonged, period before we could, eradicate polio in Nigeria. We've also seen the intervention in HIV, where community leaders have really been very helpful in engaging and, ensuring that communities are brought along in terms of information. Yeah, and they are key influencers. People listen to them.
Isn't this one particularly different? Because this has also got to do with perhaps what they can afford, how they can combine them, as opposed to those other ones that seem somewhat straightforward.
And like we said, these are multifactorial. There are many factors. It's not just one. We know that poverty is very rife in most of our communities, but there are communities where even where the food is available, people don't think it's important to set aside some for the children and the women. They carry most of these products to the market for commercial purposes and then leave very little within the homes for this very important vulnerable population group to benefit from. So there's a lot going on at the community level, beyond the poverty that we see, beyond the shortage of maybe food that you see in some communities. There's also the need to say the little that is available, what are they doing to ensure that these critical population groups get the right nutrients to survive.
So again, if I may come in, I mentioned earlier that we try to, I'm sure that the supply side of nutrition is there, providing the services. At the same time, we drive the demand, through the second component of the project, which is the social and behavioral change communication. We do that through the mass media campaign. We have developed materials, that are on the airwaves, the jingles to let people know, those essential methods, And again, through the interpersonal communication, through the faith leaders, that's where they come in. And we know, and we've worked together with them to develop materials on how to educate them, the faith leaders themselves. And a pastor going for a wedding to join couples in a wedding has an opportunity to tell them, madam, when you're pregnant, please ensure that you attend your antenatal services and you take your medications, the way, and they can educate them on the right path to take towards a healthy pregnancy period and at the same time, healthy delivery. And again, we've spoken to them, key life events, they participate there, they go for a naming ceremony, both at the two religious body. They are part of it, and we've trained them, we've been working with them over time. We have materials that we've developed, but we now see an opportunity to ensure the sustainability of this work that was started over the years when we started this project, to ensure that, okay, apart from the project, let's see how we can translate into this being in the community with the faith leaders themselves.
Well, I know my colleague Ayo has questions for you. Ayo.
Thank you, Mwakwe. Let me begin with Mrs. Madam Mohammed Idris. You know, I see that this whole nutrition thing has, the previous government, for instance, had what they call a national multi-sectoral plan of action on nutrition. I don't know how far it has worked, you know, until now. It's just 1 year before that national action plan will elapse. And we also understand that there were some partnerships with some key stakeholders. You mentioned the private sector, they are involved. The Ministry of Works, beg your pardon, the Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Health is involved. But more importantly, the Nigerian Governors Forum. Can you tell us what kind of contribution the government of a state is expected to make, and how cooperative have they been? Because they're not just talking to the Commissioner for Health, they're talking to the governor of the state about nutrition. Can you tell us about the collaboration, the working relationship with the governor in the state?
Yes, thank you very much. I think our governments, especially at the state level, have been very supportive and have also pushed, especially in terms of increasing the financing, that's the funding, for running interventions, nutrition interventions. And let's not forget, like you've rightly said, that it's not just a health-led initiative. It's a multi-sectoral approach that is being deployed, and that's why we have the national as well as the state strategic plan of action, or multi-sectoral plan of action on nutrition. We've been able to get funding across to even other very key ministries, departments, and agencies that have a role to play. If you take, for instance, the Ministry of Human Services and Social Development, which is what we call it in Kaduna State, for instance, Women Affairs. For us, we've been able to get them to also play their role in ensuring that the plight of the women and the children, which is their constituency, is addressed. We also have the likes of the Ministries of Agriculture that have done a lot, especially in training women, in training farmers, in ensuring that the right seedlings or stocks of food products are being produced. And that way we are assured of household food security. We also have a Ministry for Education. If you're talking about literacy, we are talking about the messaging that needs to go out across the different age groups, the life course, as we call it. We need to have people to have the right information so that they can make informed choices and they'll be able to know how to utilize some of this information to their benefit. And then we have ministries like even transport, where we expect people to be able to access. You know, you have to have the right roads, you have to have people having access in a way that they're able to transport themselves to the facilities where these services are offered. So we've done a lot in engaging at that level and ensuring that there's proper coordination, and our state government is in the forefront, especially in providing the necessary resources, the funding, to be able to provide these services. And we are, as ANRIM Project, have worked very closely with our state government. We have what we call the Counterpart Commitment Fund that our state governments have made. And such funds are used to ensure that this multi-sectoral intervention across board is being serviced, and the services are provided right to the community level.
Well, perhaps that really is the challenge. I mean, that you mentioned something now about, you know, education, getting the message to the people. So let me take that to Dr. Sholanke. Well, it's different strokes for different folks, some might say. While there is a generic understanding of nutrition, what constitutes or contributes to nutritional shortchanging, so to speak, in the various parts of the country might differ. You want to give us some idea of exactly what we are dealing with in the different regions, and whether or not people even have the right messaging about what nutrition really means. In some parts of the country, all they are concerned is just put something in the tummy and they're just good. But in terms of educating people, in terms of communicating with people, so they know the right things to do to help make the spendings justify the investment of governments in ensuring that we take down the nutrition figures, the challenging nutrition figures. What's the communication like, and what kind of feedback are you getting from people?
Okay, so for nutrition itself is the science of food and how it affects the body. there are different components of the food that we take in. You know, we have the carbohydrate, the protein, fats, you know, fiber, dietary fiber, water, you know, and vitamins and minerals. If you are able to combine all this in the right quantities and the right qualities, you must have been addressing the nutritional status of the individual you're talking about. So the messaging starts from how a woman at delivery will initiate the process of breastfeeding, you know, within the first hour of delivery. This is one of the messages that we're putting out there, initiation of breastfeeding. You know, we counsel the women, we let them know the importance and you know, and how beneficial the first milk that comes out for the baby, the colostrum, how important it is. So this is one of the messages that we have there. We're talking about complementary feeding. So after the first 6 months of life, what else? How do you combine all the food components together in the right quantity, in the appropriate quantity, to ensure that the baby benefits maximally? So it's another message that we put out there. When a child has diarrhea, like my colleague has mentioned earlier, we know the impact of diarrhea with a child. The diarrhea can actually kill a child within a space of 2 hours. If a child has severe diarrhea, the child can go immediately. But before you are able to access the facility, what can you do as a mother at home? You know, the use of ORS, you know, with combination with zinc, deworming, and all those basic package of nutrition services that we have there. So these are the kind of messages that we have out there, and they are there as part of our mass media campaign, also for breastfeeding, for pregnant women and lactating women. You know, the importance of the use of iron and folic acid to prevent anemia, because a well-nourished mother will be able to provide the right quantity, you know, and to be able to lactate appropriately, to be able to feed the child. So these are the messages that we have out there, and we've had positive responses to this, and it's been disaggregated into various local languages, not only in English language. All the states that are implementing our RIN project, we have them translated into Yoruba, Hausa, and English, you know, and Igbo and English. So everybody can get this message, not only for the mothers, caregivers, fathers, and anyone that has the prerogative of care for any child at all.
You know, Dr. Sholanke, the question that I would like you to please answer is, how do you get feedback? How do you know that the messaging that is being put out, you are doing a lot of work, there is no doubt about it. But, you know, we're talking about people who can hardly read. Some, once it gets to, okay, this thing is from government, there is that natural distrust, so to speak. How do you get feedback from people that these things really do get to them, and that the investment of government at various levels are being justified? That's the thing I would like you to help us answer.
Apart from the fact that we have community-based services, we have counselors, you know, people who are working in the community on the project at the state level, at the community level. We're conducting a survey to know the impact of our mass media campaign, you know, knowledge, attitude, and practices. So we collected data before the interventions. You know, after the intervention, after a space of 6 months to 1 year, the midline and the end line. So we'll be able to say, is our intervention working at all? That's a form of feedback that we get. You know, when we have the baseline, you know, data collection that we have, you know, on knowledge, attitude, and practices. At the midline, we have another survey to know, are we making impact with this messaging that's out there? And at endpoint, what are the impact over time, over the space of 1 year that we've been on this campaign?
In addition, we do have responses coming from our community structures. We have what we call the GRC, the mechanism that processes what is happening at the community level. So on a routine basis, we get some of these messages or information coming from the community members themselves on their uptake and their satisfaction with the services that have been provided. We call it the safeguard due diligence.
I assume that since the VP said he's passionate about this, you're getting a lot of support from him, I reckon. Is that right?
Yes. Oh, sure.
Okay. So is there a target? Since we have about, what, 33% of severe malnutrition, are we targeting, or do we have that figure? Or at least want to see how much we can eradicate or reduce?
So for the results framework that we have is to be able to see how we can shift the head of the needle from the 34%, 35 or 34% that we have currently, midway,
okay,
at least.
All right, we have to run. Dr. Joalakwe Sholanke and Dr. Zainab Kwaru Mohammed Idris, both working on the ANWIN project to reduce acute, severe malnutrition. So yes, it is a thing, and we lose a lot of money in that annually. We understand from figures. Sometimes you're surprised at these figures when you see them. You never pay that much attention. Thank you both, and all the best to both of you.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess that is the show today. We do thank you all for watching. Yes, it's a Friday, so do what you have to do. Until then, we'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
When I eventually grew up, I realized that my food and nutrition class wasn't a waste. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you also pay some attention to what you consume this weekend. I'm Malcolm Yusuf.
And I still wonder why they call it 3 square meals. Why not triangle meals or round meals or something? Anyway, a matter for some other time. I am Akide. Do have a beautiful weekend.
Welcome to Art House. I'm Melinda. Coming up on today's episode of the program. Life is a stage. A bold canvas. Splash some paint on it. Sprinkle some rice while